This is Movers and Shakers, where we interview the upcoming generation of Make It Happen multifamily investors to share their story.
Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast. My name is Gino Barbaro, co-founder of Jake and Gino, multifamily investor, educator, father, mentor, and I'm joined by my co-host, my brosif, Joshua Rusin, community director of Jake and Gino. Josh, how are you doing today, bro?
Gino, doing well, man. Very excited that you guys were gracious enough to open up the weekly class this previous week on Monday to non-students, just to make sure during this time people had access to financial education and start building that financial literacy to really start setting themselves up for the future. So I'm really appreciative of that. And hey, to the listeners, if you want a copy of that recording and you weren't able to attend, email me, josh@jakeandgino.com, and I'll go ahead and send it over. Gino, what's good with you?
Well, I'm excited about today's guest because today's guest joined a little over a year ago when the market was crazy and the market was hot. And I'm sure everyone was telling him, you're crazy for getting into it. There's no deals out there. And it's a perfect example that I've always been talking about. It's time to join or time to start when you're ready. It's never the right time until you're ready to take massive action. And now I think the guest has really positioned himself pretty well because now he has relationships. He has a couple of deals under his belt. He knows what market he's in. He's got investors. He has momentum going into this downturn, and he actually knows what the downturn looks like. So I'm excited to get the show on the started.
Speaking as today's guest, we have Mike Konstantas. So he currently lives in Bayside, New York with his beautiful wife, Kelly, his 2 daughters, and his 3rd daughter on the way. After graduating with a construction management / engineering technologies degree, he continued to work with his father in the family custom woodworking business, which his father had started over 40 years ago. He continues to manage and operate the business that he has worked on some of the largest restaurants in New York City. Mike started investing in real estate back in 2005 with the purchase of an out-of-state condo and has continued to build a rental portfolio while making the decision in late 2018 to move into multifamily real estate. Mike closed on his first multifamily properties with his partners in January 2020 and closed on his second multifamily property in March 2020, bringing his total portfolio to 95 units, plus an additional 479 units as an LP. He is the co-founder of 168 Capital alongside with his wife, where their vision is to be able to provide clean, safe, and affordable housing to their residents while building a sense of community from within. Welcome to the show, Mike.
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, all right, I want to learn a little bit about your background. So you grew up, your dad was in business, he had a custom woodworking shop. You know, what made you decide to follow in his footsteps and continue on with that business?
Well, it was kind of started with as a young kid going during the weekends and when we were off from school just for some spending money. I'd go out on different deliveries and make a couple bucks while I was at it. So as I was going through high school, junior and senior years were fairly light for me. So I would school during the day, kind of work afternoon into the evening, and then kind of just continued. Graduated with my degree, spoke to a couple of professional engineers that basically told me I was better off sticking with what we were doing now in a family business instead of going for my license, because what we had going on was good, and the fact of getting into to get your PE license, you have to work for someone else for a bunch of years, and just you're not going to move up that corporate ladder that quickly. So from there, I just kind of decided to stick it out and kind of go full force with moving forward with the business.
So why multifamily?
I guess kind of goes back to the book that you guys just put out, The Honeybee, and not wanting to have or depend on just the one source of income. It was something that my father's done for so long, and he did dally in some real estate, but, didn't really go as well as he always planned. So he kind of got out of it with this kind of angry sense, about it. So I started investing in 2005, bought a condo with a buddy of mine that I met in college. And then from there, we just kind of continued, picking up one here, one there, until after a couple of conversations with my wife, Kelly, we kind of decided to go into something a little bit larger and be able to scale a little bit easier. So that's sort of how we got into the multi.
And what is the ultimate goal? Is it the ultimate goal to transition completely into multifamily and sell the family business?
Yeah. I think hopefully sooner than later, we kind of look to go that route. I don't know if I totally want to get out of the construction, woodworking business, just because it's sort of all I know for the last, 25 years as well. But I would like to have the multifamily being a bigger portion of what we do on the day to day. And if it gets to a point where it's large enough to have a management company and kind of do similar things to what you guys are doing, then yeah, definitely.
So my real question is, when are you leaving New York? That's the question, because everyone on listening to the show today should know that me and Mike have very, very similar paths.
Yeah.
He's Greek, I'm Italian. Fortunately, very similar mindsets, very similar backgrounds, very similar limiting beliefs with older generations as opposed to younger generations. I got into the family business the same way. I was 8 years old, going to Windex the floors and the walls in my dad's restaurant. I thought everyone went to work with their dad. That's what I thought, right? I was doing stuff at 8 years old with knives that people wouldn't let their teenagers do nowadays, right? I was working on the fryer and I loved it. And it was part of me. And then as I grew up, it became part of what I did. And I know Mike, speaking to Mike, he's probably a hard worker like I was. They're very difficult businesses. But as you get older, you start saying to yourself, there has to be more. I mean, I can't just keep going to work every week and keep plugging the clock and there's no equity buildup. So what does it look like for you? I mean, I had the same journey. I thought I would never leave New York. I thought I was like a New Yorker for life. And then I said, once I sold the restaurant, I said, let me try something new. So how does that look for you?
Yeah, it's a tough question. We've kind of had that discussion a little bit with my wife, and if she's the boss in this household, it's not happening at least for some time.
Uh-huh.
But if it was up to me, it'd probably be sooner than later as well. I'm not one for the cold. I'm not one for the snow, and it's just something that. I think eventually going forward, it's going to be a lot more difficult to kind of, survive here in New York City.
So it's funny that I give a tip to all the listeners out there. What you need to do is try to get the significant other on board, paint them a picture of what financial freedom looks like, and going down to somewhere in Florida. And that's what I did with my wife. And then ultimately I said, we're going to get your family down here. My mother-in-law since has moved down here. My brother's migrated down here. So once you go, I think everyone's the whole, it's like, I guess first it's denial, then it's anger, then it's acceptance. And then it's like, well, maybe I should do it too. So it takes a little while. So there's the roadmap right there, Mike, to getting people down there. But I mean, multifamily allowed me to do that. So, and that was the amazing thing with multifamily. How did you find the Jake and Gino community? I don't remember that.
Through Bigger Pockets. And then I don't know how I got connected with Josh. We were kind of exchanging a few text messages over Facebook Messenger and whatnot. And then I went to a meetup that you guys had in New York. That was a Bigger Pockets
meetup.
Yes. I think it was September of 2018. Started, we kind of hung around and we're talking to you guys a little bit after that too. And, from there, we just kind of continued the conversations. Kelly liked what she heard there as well. And she, dug into it a little bit as well. And then a couple weeks after that, I think is when we decided to join.
Wow. So what were the benefits once you joined? What did you take away? Big takeaways from joining the community?
I mean, right off the bat, it shortened the learning curve of what we're trying to figure out to do and how to do it. We plenty of people within the community amongst yourselves, help guiding us to, what to do and what not to do. And then also, with helping as far as what markets to pick. I met my partners, through the community as well. One of them, I think, joined around the same time that I did. The other two shortly thereafter. And it's been great ever since. I mean, I can't say enough about the people that are in the community as well as the people behind the community.
So what would you recommend to people that are trying to get into multifamily, especially during these, tumultuous times, the market's shifting, agency debt is going in a different direction. Now we have deals, right? We haven't had deals, but now we have deals. What would you recommend to people trying to get into multifamily right now?
Find a mentor that you feel has similar goals and mindset that you do. Learn learn and learn. If you find the right people that are there behind you that can give you the resources, give you the give you the lessons that you need. Um, by far, I think that's the most important thing. And right now, with what we're dealing with, this is probably the best time to get into it because things are going to be moving a lot slower. So you may not feel that you're missing the bus or missing the boat because things are just moving a lot slower than normal.
So, Mike, what were some of those learning lessons that you took away that you like before you got into multifamily, or you got into multifamily, you were like, that's not possible. But then once you join, you're like, wow, okay, that makes sense now. We can do it that way.
I think, growing up in that family business, my father was sort of, I don't want to say anti-partnership, but, he's been through one or two and didn't go well. So it was that I'm a mentality that you guys always talk about. So going into it, it was one, I need to do it by myself. Two, I've done the out of state stuff, but doing it on a much larger scale was going to be a tough thing, for me to deal with. Just being okay with, opening my mind, I should say, to potentially having to get partners involved. When I first started looking on my own, and I knew what my capability was as far as loan qualifications and things like that, in the market that we were looking in, it was turning into a 10 to 12 unit. But then I also heard that management is tough on that kind of scale as well. So I didn't want that 10 or 12 unit, especially being that it was out of state. And then once we kind of, started opening our minds a little bit and talking to some of the other community members that were looking in that area, it kind of started with just, if I find something, I'll send it to you. If you find something, send it to me, and let's kind of, look at it and, look at it together and kind of see what we can do with it. And one thing led to another.
So, Mike, you were quicker than me and Jake on getting your first deal. It took us 18 months to get our first deal. You did it, seems like in under 14, 12, about a year's time. How did you stick with it? Because I'm sure that you heard from your dad and from family members, you're crazy. There's a lot of risk. There's no deals out there. What made you keep going?
The wanting to do it and wanting to get it done. Again, I love what I do on a day to day. It's the older that I get, it's becoming more and more difficult to go every day and leave happy. I tend to come home and kind of, bitch at my wife about things that happen at work, and it's typically based on the employees and whatnot, but it's, it is what it is. So, it's one of those things, and thankfully she's on board 100%. She was in the, settlement business, does title closings, bank closings, things like that. So she's been around the real estate industry for 15 or so years. And, she was 100% on board, pushing, helping us. When we did our first property tours, it was me, my wife, and, we went with Gwaith Smith, and it was, just the three of us. And, she came, didn't care that she was the third wheel in this pie. And we had a great time, so.
That's really cool.
Mike, what I want to dive into, so all right, end of 2019, you have 4 units. This year already, you've added 91 units to your portfolio. That's really impressive. So let's talk about that first deal, the 42 unit, how you guys found it, what the opportunity was. Fill us in on the details of that deal.
So we found it on the trip that we decided to go, down to Louisville. And we had seen the deal a couple days before through a broker that we were meeting when we got into town. It was just over the river in Jeffersonville, South Indiana. And when we kind of saw where it was like, Indiana, who wants to be there kind of deal. And, we didn't realize how close it was to downtown Louisville. And we met with the broker, spoke to him about it, and kind of gave him what our plan was going forward, which was, try to get that 100 unit plus deal. And his suggestion, at least in that market, was in order to boost our odds a little bit from going against some of the bigger players in that market, to go with something smaller in that, 30 to 60 range, and then build around that in order to get that 100 unit mark or plus, in order to get better management. And, we decided to take a drive up to his property and take a look at that. And Within a couple weeks after that, we started putting the numbers together, and I want to say in less than 4 weeks we had the LOI out and signed a couple weeks after that. So
that's awesome.
What did you like about the deal? What was the opportunity?
Value add as far as rents. We're below market, nothing crazy, but good start. There was a laundry play in one of the buildings. It was two different buildings. One unit had the machines within the units. The other one had a common laundry room. So that was another play, and it was also on that path of progress. And I know that's something that you guys don't preach or push people to kind of look at, but being there and kind of talking to some of the locals, a bunch of new development is coming down the pipe, as a little further north from where we are, but it's trickling down our way. So we thought it was also going to be a kind of cherry on the top.
I love that. Josh, I just want all the listeners out there to get a pen and paper and write this down, and then maybe Mike can expand on it a little bit. But these are the steps that Mike took. The first thing is he decided multifamily. He really got his spouse, significant other on board. They both agreed to it. The next thing Mike did was he selected a market. He wasn't in 15 different markets. It looked like he was going to Louisville. The next thing he did is he contacted brokers. The next thing he did property tours. He actually went out there and visited the market. So brokers start taking you seriously. And oh, by the way, there might be another deal out there. And that's what happened. They have other deals out there. It's not just a deal you're going out there. Once they see you're serious, once they see you're from New York and you've got capital, they take you seriously. It's not just a phone call. The next thing is, I think Mike shed his limiting beliefs of we need to get a 100 unit plus deal. If he was intractable and said, no, I need 100 units, he might not have gotten this opportunity. That's really important, everybody, to shed your limiting beliefs. And I think finally is just being flexible to that. Okay, let's go look at a smaller property. Let's see what happens. And then finally, knowing the numbers, knowing the value add, and knowing what to look for in a deal like that. Mike, do you want to add anything to that basic laid out framework? It seems really simple. It's simple, but it's not easy to do. But that's basically what you did, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what we did. I mean, we started off by just kind of winging it and making the trip. I think in hindsight, if I had to change anything in regards to that process, our mistake was that we booked flights and then decided to start making appointments and come to find out that, this guy was out of town, that guy was out of town, this guy was out of town, that guy was out of town. So it was like as if somebody else is having a big party that we weren't invited to. So, but, we were able to meet a good amount of people while we were there. And it also gave us, I think, a little bit more time to get to know the areas. If we, we were only there for 2 days. So if we were there and had, 15 meetings lined up, we would have never seen north side, south side, east side, west side of the city, plus going into Indiana and checking out some of the neighborhoods over there. So I think for the first meeting or the first visit, it was kind of a good thing that we didn't have too much lined up.
Mm-hmm.
Gave us an opportunity to, again, we sat in the car for 6.5 hours, driving around everywhere, stopping off at local restaurants, talking to locals, just kind of getting a feel for the area itself. And then as far as the rest, I mean, pretty much exactly what you said. So
Mike, give us an idea before we go to the short answer questions. Give us an idea of what people should do when they go on their first property tour or their first market research tour. They get on that plane and fly to that market. What should they do?
I mean, I think the first step would be to try to get those appointments. Again, not overload your.
Who are you calling?
Oh, brokers, property management companies. I wouldn't overload yourself with appointments. If you want to start meeting some community bank lenders and maybe a title company or two that, that works as well. And then, what we did was we kind of saw a couple of properties that were online for sale. Some fit our criteria, others didn't, but we figured let's just go drive by, and we kind of mapped it out and it sort of had a course, so to speak, as far as from the the top side of the city and kind of clockwise what we did, visiting different properties, different areas, and then if you can get a property tour within that period, then go for it as well.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So for me, the thing is, would you have done this by yourself? Would have been a lot easier. Was it a lot easier to do it with a partner, or would you have done it by yourself?
I would have done it definitely with a partner all day long. I mean, it's no fun drinking by yourself. So yeah, definitely.
I remember doing my first tours, going to Rochester by myself. I actually brought a friend with me who wasn't a partner. So get an accountability partner out there. Find someone who you can bring, because it's scary going the first time and talking to brokers and talking to property managers. And if you can find an inspector, maybe an inspector you can meet, maybe a title company. I love that. Community banks. It's all that. What did you learn from those property tours that you can't learn from Google Maps?
You could see how from one block to another neighborhoods could change. I guess living in New York, we sort of have that, but not really. There's your good areas, your bad areas, and your really bad areas. But going to a state that I've only been to once before and had never been to Louisville at all. Going from block to block, you could really see a difference, which was a little bit surprising to me and my wife. I think Wade could probably say the same thing, that seeing that change, it was just kind of mind blowing. And it helps once you know that, because then if you want to be in those areas, great. But if you don't, you can throw an X there and say, okay, when you Google map the address and it's there, all right, I don't want to be here, so move on. Don't even waste your time on it. So
I love that. That's a great tip. Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors.
Gino, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. I know that you've been hard at work helping Jake and Gino students do just that using our framework. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
Guys, we've been hard at work growing our community of like-minded investors, and the results of our members has been nothing short of incredible. We're looking to grow this amazing group. What we're looking for is those who want to follow our proprietary framework that we've created: buy right, manage right, and finance right. Leverage our connections, education, and mentorship as ways to take your business to the next level.
So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become a part of our amazing community, apply to work with us at jakeandgino.com/apply.
All right, Mike, I got some short answer questions here for you. What is your favorite book and why?
There was a few that I was, going back and forth with. The Go Giver, I think would have to definitely be one. Shoe Dog, being the other. It's nice to be able to do this and kind of build that, financial freedom for yourself, for your family, and your loved ones. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, if you have the ability and the knowledge to share it with other people and can help them get to where they want to be, there's no better satisfaction in life, I think, than that. So
it's awesome.
Love that. Yeah. What about your best habit for success?
For me, sleep. I like to get to bed early, typically a lot earlier than what people think is normal for a guy my age. But I put my daughter to bed around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and 9 times out of 10, I pass out before her. My excuse is I do wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, including the weekends, just because that's my body, clock right now. But, sleep, if I can go a few days with a lack of sleep, but eventually it's going to catch up and kind of, beat me in the butt. So
I thought you were going to say your best habit is fighting with your dad, because that was like my best habit. And my dad was with dad all the time.
I try not to do that as much as possible. It gets a little uncomfortable when you do family dinners.
I love that.
Love that. All right. So there's been some really good golden nuggets from this tip. Gino, walk me through some of them.
Well, Josh, I gave you the framework, right? Let's talk about it real quick again. You decide, you select the market, you do some property tours, you shed your limiting beliefs, and you be flexible. And even before that, you find a mentor. Everyone that I know that's been really successful and has grown has found a mentor or somebody to help them. And as you're growing, you're going to continue your education. I didn't stop coaching. We're still coaching right now as we speak, because we want to continue to grow. Because when you hit a certain area in your life, you're like, okay, I've done that. I need to get to the next level. I need somebody to help me to get to that next level, because I don't know how to. And you can sit there and be by yourself and waddle and think you can do it by yourself, or you can get somebody to help you, to push you along the way and do it a lot quicker, and try to maybe sidetrack some of those big mistakes that you might make doing it by yourself. And having those those little, aha moments like, wow, I didn't know that. And I think, Josh, the other important thing is he has some amazing partners. I love all the people that he's partnered with in the Jake and Gino community. I think the most important thing is they hold each other accountable. They get on the plane together. They look at deals together, and they work really well together. So that accountability piece is also a huge component to it.
Yeah, I think a big one for me is taking the long view here. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It took just over a year for Mike to get his first deal. And then lo and behold, 2 months later, he gets his second deal. So just realizing that taking these actions over time is going to get you to your results, but it doesn't happen overnight. So that was a big one for me.
Love that. Anything else, Mike?
Nope, you pretty much wrapped it up.
All right, bro.
Mike, how can the listeners get a hold of you?
Email mike.konstantas@gmail.com. And then I'll throw my number out. It's 917-577-2448.
So his last name is spelled Konstantas. Konstantas. That's a tough one, bro. It's like Barbaro. You got to spell those out. The Greeks and the Italians, they don't make it easy on us. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely not.
All right, well, listen, I want to thank Mike for being an amazing guest on the show and sharing his Movers and Shakers story. If you want to be the next guest on Movers and Shakers, email me, josh@jakeandgino.com. And listen, if you love the show, please leave us a review. And until next time, let's make it a Movers and Shakers week. See ya, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. Take care,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you. All right, be good.
Boom.